idea.
Hey, another episode. This one's pretty cursed. We've been trying to get this recorded for, I don't know. Is it a month, maybe?
Something like that.
At least.
Yeah.
Two or three, maybe.
Yeah. Here we are, anyway. I'm Kevin. I'm one of your hosts. I'm joined by my other two co-hosts, Shawn and Antony. And today we have two guests. We have Jacob and Willow, I think, from the Routify team that are on to talk about Routify. So welcome, guys.
Thank you. And
Thanks.
hello.
Hi. So before we get into the nitty gritty, what have you guys been up to lately? Have you been doing anything fun? Unrelated to Svelte or related to Svelte, if you want.
I have been getting my double jabs for the COVID vaccine and then redoing the office and just general family stuff here in the summer.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's about it.
Yeah, I just got my second jab last week as well. Pretty excited to go traveling. What about you guys, Antony, Shawn? What have you been doing?
Well, double jabs as well. Yes, double jab crew. I have basically been working on Beyond, which is not really different news to what I normally work on, to be honest.
Yeah.
We are just about to close a funding round. Very exciting. Which means we can hire lots of people soon. So maybe I'll turn the next podcast into a massive ad about hiring, about trying to interview people, because it's hard work. You know, I'll tell you what, it's difficult. Yeah, it's the markets. I mean, I haven't been in the market for a while, and it's kind of changed quite a lot from what I remember it to be. So yeah, that's consumed an awful lot of my time. For those who've done it, funding is quite exhausting, and hiring is the next step, which is also very exhausting. So I'm busy, shall we say?
Sounds like you're having at least some fun.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. It's a learning experience, and learning's fun, right? So,
I didn't want to miss Willow or Ghost. I don't know which one it is, but did you want to have an update?
I'm working on Svelte stuff and projects like Discord related stuff too at the moment.
Ooh, I'd love to hear about Discord stuff. I actually do have a work in progress thing that I really want to do. Okay, well, my update is I just moved to Seattle proper. I was in Bellevue previously, and so now I'm setting up my new apartment, and I don't have my normal microphone. So if I sound crappy, apologies.
That's all right.
But yeah, our company bet on Svelte maybe like a month ago. We're still heavily underway building it out. People seem to like it. It's pretty crazy that we're converting, React fans into Svelte fans, and it's crazy to see that we're comfortable betting on this thing.
Nice. Yeah, I've been.
I might just. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say I might just hire loads of React developers so I can convert them. Not launch any.
Yeah, is that how we grow the community?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been working at Buddybase for a while now, and now I'm probably moving into more of a developer relationship kind of a role. So that's exciting for me. But yeah, let's get into Svelte stuff. So, Jake, Willow, what is Routify?
Well, Routify is a router, more or less, file-based. It's inspired by the routing part of Sapper, which where it kind of all started. I was using Sapper when I got into Svelte, but I did have some issues with build times and stuff, and I just needed a minimal solution for file routing, so I quickly whipped up a tiny little router. I think it was called Svelte File Router back then. And I was just using that on a couple of small projects, but that gained popularity, and then all of a sudden I had Rixo and others joining me with Rixo did help write a lot of the code, or some of the code, and then others joined in after him, and then it became Routify, and that's kind of how the whole thing started.
Cool. So I kind of jumped the gun here, but I was going to ask, so what are you guys' background?
I'm a full stack software engineer, currently working as a subcontractor for PyCom.
Yeah. How did you end up in using Svelte rather than some other?
Oh, I can't remember now. I think it started after we bought the house, and I decided if we got the house I wanted to get, I was going to take a year off and just work on the house instead. And we got the house we wanted, so then I had a year to renovate the house. And then after a year of programming, where I was very determined not to do any programming or even set a TV up, because I knew instantly that if I did that, then the house would stop. And that's also what happened later on. But anyway, after a year, I had to pick it up again, the programming, and I was looking at what was out there. I was used to using Vue. And I came across Svelte, and I figured at least give it a try. And I instantly fell in love with Svelte. It had that feeling of, I don't know what you call it, a natural evolution of JavaScript.
Yeah.
So that's how I started.
Like a superset.
Yeah.
And also I guess, on a podcast you can't see Jake's house, but it's good. It looks good. It looks really good.
Yeah. it does look good. Willow, what's your background? How did you come into the Routify fold?
So I started off mainly on the server, and then about a year ago now, I decided to start doing websites, because I find that I really enjoy making websites. And I started out with just plain CSS, HTML, and jQuery. And I saw a Fireship video on what's new with Svelte 3, and I said to myself, this looks awesome, because I was going to get into React, but I was just like, this is weird. It didn't click as much as Svelte did. And so I started looking around, like, how do I make something with Svelte? And my first site was just with like the basic just roll up thing. And then I saw Sapper and I saw Routify. And I think it was the 2019 or 2020 talk that Jake did that really got me into it. And I joined the Routify Discord, and I was like, this is awesome. What can I do to help? And that's how it's been. It's been helping since.
Cool. You see, there's a benefit to giving talks with you get people to join you.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the only reason I know about Routify. Because of his talk.
That caught me by surprise, because I hated that talk I gave.
Well,
Really?
I remember you told me, didn't you re-record that a bunch of times?
I did the first recording, and it was near perfect, and it was natural, and I sounded like an actual human. And there were a few flaws in it, and I was like, I can do that better. I'll just give it a second go. And then
Oh, no.
all of a sudden it became memorized, and the natural feeling was completely gone. It became scripted and terrible. So I'm surprised that's how Ghost found Routify.
Oh, I remember it being good.
Yeah, I do. I was going to say.
Yeah, it was nice. So that was all the way back in, I think, Svelte Society Day, right? It was
Yeah, that's
the
true.
first conference. Yeah, yeah, something like that. So you started Sapper, but then you made your own file router. So that could we call that like Routify 0.1 or something, maybe?
Yeah, I think there was Svelte file router, and that would be Routify 0.1, and then when we changed the name, that would be version 1.
All right.
So yeah, that makes sense.
So one thing that kind of struck me about Routify, or Routify, probably as I pronounce it, I don't know which the correct pronunciation is.
I have no idea.
But one of the things that struck me is obviously like Sapper uses its own kind of version of hydration, which is a kind of all or nothing approach. And I know that there was a decision in R25, should we call it? I don't know. I'll try not to make up names on the fly. But basically a decision to use, is it JS DOM that it uses for SSR? Do you what sort of made that decision? What was the reason behind that?
Oh, for using JS DOM?
Yeah, for the SSR stuff.
I can't even remember what the original cost was for it. I think there was a bit more flexibility with JS DOM, especially with the Ready Helper we created, where you didn't have to get into a lot of boilerplate and different syntax, where it used to be that you had to create a different script module, and then you had to run your things in there and have them in a preload function, then you had to export the preload function and then import it into the main script. And I see the benefit of it. There's a purist appreciation of doing it like that because it's very efficient. But from my point of view, I felt for me, the Ready Helper was more efficient the way I was working, that I could just write my code like I would if it was a single page application and not even think about the SSR. And then the second I wanted to turn it into an SSR, I just wrote $ready and then it was SSR. So it was very easy to just transform it.
I remember when I first found Routify, this is one of those things that I liked about it, like the simplicity compared to Sapper at the time. Just being able to just write stuff and then tack on a Ready Helper call and then you're pretty much done. So I can...
I was just going to say, I do enjoy the helpers in Routify, actually. All the dollar prefix things that you import. I think that's quite a nice way of doing things, and it's really good.
You can thank Rixa for those. He came up with the system for tagging into the native stores of Svelte.
Okay.
Interesting.
Nice. Yeah, that's how they work, isn't it? I suppose they're stores.
Yeah, I remember,
it's nice.
I talked to him about it, and he said you can do it like this, but he had to warn me. There's a risk that it would just one day break if the internal function just started changing. But no,
so far so good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the risks you take, isn't it? I suppose when you're building something at that level, that you kind of can't help but tie yourself to internals. I mean, Rick says the guy who sort of lived on the edge of the internals all the time anyway, because he wrote the original.
Exactly.
He wrote the original and current HMR implementation, in fact, and that uses some weird stuff. He's a wizard, yeah.
So what are some other neat features of Routify? Like, what's the elevator pitch? If you
I should have thought about that.
Well, the helpers, right? They're pretty good.
Yeah, the helpers are. I don't know what would be the elevator pitch for Routify. For Routify 3, the biggest seller would be that it actually works inside SvelteKit. Whether it works with all the features, I doubt that as far as hydration and all that goes. But if you wanted, you could just drop it into SvelteKit and then do a mix and match. You could do 50-50 or do all Routify. It's completely up to you. Whether somebody will do that, I don't know, but I think that's probably the biggest seller considering how popular SvelteKit is. But on its own, I'd say for Routify 3, it will be the virtual file system that you can access. It gives you a lot of flexibility that you can traverse the different files. We call them nodes in Routify. And you can kind of orchestrate different pages. It helps especially for stuff like internationalization, where you could redirect to different pages or show them depending on whatever logic you prefer. Or you can have a landing page where you show off 10 pages at once if you prefer. There's a lot of flexibility there with the virtual file system. That's
was the internationalization a big driver behind Routify? Was it something you sort of baked into the core? Because I know that, for instance, in Sapper, we've sort of struggled with that, getting the right decision.
It's something I always wanted to do, and for everything I did with Routify, it was I wouldn't say internationalization. I can't say that word, but I wouldn't say it was a big priority, but it was more the whole concept of being flexible, where that was a part of it, that I didn't want to do anything where all of a sudden the people who needed those features would be cut off. So yeah, I tried to keep it flexible so you could write your own.
Yeah, I guess Wolfer was a big influence on the internationalization stuff. He always Wolfer is the guy behind the design for Svelte Summit, the websites.
He was very generous. He got his team at Mono to design the website and documentation and stuff. So we owe him a lot of gratitude.
Oh, for Routify as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I get where he's coming from, because every time he has to do a project, they have to do it in 3 languages. So he needs something that's just completely streamlined, that he doesn't have to think about every time. It should just work out of the box.
Yeah. I guess there are a bunch of different places where it's like that, right? So you have Belgium where
Exactly.
he is, right? And then Switzerland as well. It's probably like 3 languages, and probably a bunch of other countries where there are at least 2. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So if we switch around to let's talk a bit about like the community side of Routify. I know, Willow, you've been pretty active there on the Discord. What's it like running a Discord server that it's kind of big, right? There are a bunch of people on the Routify Discord.
Yeah, we have well over 1,000 people on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, most of it's just people asking for like help, and then Jake or I will usually get around to answering it. There's also, we have like a Git updates channel, and we have like, I usually tag this role when we have new releases, and you can like click like this there's this Discord bot, and you can like press this button and it'll give you the role. So you can like opt in to notifications. It's we have quite a lot in the Discord.
Yeah, it's actually like interesting how big the Routify Discord is, since it's like one of those extra frameworks that are built on top of another framework, sort of. So it's nice to see that it's been growing to be as big as it is. I often see like sometimes smaller communities often don't get any traction at all, but that doesn't seem to be the case with Routify. So that's nice.
Yeah, that's another thing we can thank Wolfer for. I don't know how he did it, but I think it took him 5 minutes to get that going, and then it's full speed in no time.
Yeah. So what's it like building a file-based router? What are like some of the tough problems that you need to solve?
Did you say fire-based?
No, file-based.
Oh, file-based, sorry. My bad. Yeah, I don't know how I misheard that. It's the new earphones. I'm not used to it.
No worries.
Some of the problems are, I don't know. I think for Routify 3, it's been a lot more difficult than it was for Routify 1 and Routify 2, because for Routify 1, it was just fixing a very specific problem. I wanted the file routing that I've had from Sapper, and that's all I wanted, and that was fairly easy to write. And then Routify 2 was just a continuation of that, also fairly simple. But Routify 3 is a complete rewrite, and there's a lot of tough choices that went into that, and there's still some open ends, what would you call it, experimental features, where I'm considering doing a versioning, kind of like you have with Node and another software, where you say you have uneven versions. That's a little bit experimental, and then the even versions you get it right, and then every other year you do a minor rewrite. So for Routify 3, it's getting all these things right from scratch, rather than just building on top of what you have.
Right. So you said something about Routify being able to be used inside of SvelteKit?
Yeah.
How would that work?
That's fairly simple, actually. You just create a file in your pages, and you name it bracket ... index or whatever have you, and then you just put Routify in there, and then whatever comes from SvelteKit just gets redirected to Routify.
Oh, do I need to turn off like the SvelteKit router for this?
No, that shouldn't be necessary, because the SvelteKit router is still catching all traffic and then passing it on. But you might, if you're not going to use SvelteKit at all, the routing, then you could. But it's not something I have been played a lot with. I created an example just to see if I could get it working, and then once that was working, I was like patting myself on the shoulder, and then that was it. Then I haven't come back to it since. But it's something I want to look into further when there's a bit of time for it.
Yeah. So what kind of new features are there in Routify 3 compared to 2?
The virtual file system that you use for navigation generation especially for documentation sites and stuff like that, is a lot more fleshed out. Then we have external metadata, whereas before you had to write your metadata as HTML comments, because they had the benefit that they'd automatically be stripped in production by almost any bundle you'd use, so we wouldn't need to compile anything to get metadata in like that. But those we support in external meta files now, so you can actually fetch data on build, and you can cache that data. So if, let's say you had a site where you presented movies and you had thousands of movies there that you scraped off MovieDB or whatever have you, you don't want all those movies to be scraped on every single npm run dev. You want that to just be available. You could have that cached and even stored when you save it to GitHub, and then on production you could have the cache disabled, so the only time you ever fetch from the API would be when you run your build, and other than that you'd leave the API alone. That's one of the features. And then we have code splitting in the metadata. And then we have preloads and guards, kind of like you had in Zapper and SvelteKit, I think. Is it called load now in SvelteKit? All right. I imagine it's somewhat the same functionality, that you run some functionality before you actually load the component, whereas in Routify 2, the logic runs within the component. So that's some of the new features. And yeah, the biggest feature probably is multiple routers. You can have routers within your router.
Route section. When would you want to do that? Are there reasons for doing that?
I think for very visual sites, where you might want to do something like, say you had galleries in a, what do you call it, a carousel, or pages where you could go from from page to page, where each page is its own app that you can navigate in and then go back and forth, and you still have the state preserved from the previous page. I think we're moving into app country now. This is not so much websites as it's an app feature. I know from Rick, so when he was doing, this is embarrassing. What was the name of it?
Is it Svelte?
Oh yeah, Svelte, yeah. When he was doing Svelte, he was looking for a router or multiple routers, and Routify didn't support that, so he actually had to write his own file-based router. So I know Svelte is one example.
All right, cool. So let's see here. And
another thing that came to mind, something like widgets. A lot of websites now have widgets where you can navigate within the widget on the website. Things like that would be functional as well. Or if you're creating, a website builder, where you might want to navigate the site itself, but you also have the navigation of the builder itself. And yeah, there are scenarios where you might want both.
Oh, yeah.
Saves using iframes, doesn't it? I suppose it saves having that.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So it just dawned on me that, so you could build your widget like you would build a standard app with your routes split up. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
And then you have the choice between storing the data nowhere, where whenever you have a widget or a router within the page would just be lost when you navigate away from it, or you can have it in the local storage, or you can even have it in the browser in the address there. Depends on what you prefer.
Yeah. All right. So when can we try this new cool version of Routify? Because it's not out yet, right? Well,
no, it's not. The plan was that we'd release a preview or something after or simultaneously with the release of this podcast here. So I don't know what date you have for it.
Oh, it's gonna take a couple of weeks for sure. We have a couple episodes going out before this, so
I think the preview will be out before then.
Yeah. Famous last words.
It could be. No, it should be ready.
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right, so other than Routify, I know you also have some other tools that you've built. So stack mix, right? But that's probably kind of like is that kind of the equivalent of Svelte add for Svelte kit, but for Routify?
So I don't know much about Svelte add yet. It's something it's on the to-do list of things I want to try.
Yeah, so that pretty much just adds functionality onto the basic Svelte kit install or whatever you want to call it. Say you wanted Tailwind, you do Svelte add Tailwind, and you get Tailwind.
Is that an official capability, or did someone make that?
No, so I think Jacob made that, right? Jay.
Stack mix?
No, the Svelte add is the thing you're talking about, right, Shawn?
Yeah, I've only seen that in the context of Svelte add Tailwind. I don't know what else it does. I don't know who made it.
It just adds, like you said, adds functionality to Svelte. It has a bunch of stuff that I think anyone can make a thing that is added. Tailwind is probably the most used one because it's Tailwind, but I think there's a bunch of others. It's not an official thing. It's like, I don't know what's it equivalent to. I guess it kind of just mixes, like a mixing. It adds mixiness to your whatever it needs to, like whatever files, whatever config, whatever package you need to install. It does that sort of thing. But it's completely community driven, and I think the people who make the things you can add, the adders, I think they're called, they're not all written by the same author. And I don't know who the original author is, but you're suggesting it might be Jay?
Yeah, he's usually on the Svelte Discord a lot.
Yeah, were they called J No Control originally? I get so confused because it's reduced to one letter now. There's so many people.
On GitHub, I think it's Jacob Babbage.
Yes.
Oh, Jacob Babbage, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, detour. Sorry. Stack mix. So that's kind of the Routify equivalent, I guess. Kind of add functionality. How would you describe it?
It's a templater that works around a lot of logic. It takes into account what kind of bundler you're working with and where you have your main template, whether it's index.js, main.js, or where your index HTML is located. There's a lot of configuration going into it, especially for when you pick your own bundler, Rollup or Byte or whatever have you. That has to be taken into consideration. You have all these different configs getting merged, different things getting added to package JSON. It takes all those things into account and then compiles an app based on different configurations. It's unfortunately undocumented because it's I don't know what you call it. It's very complex. The thing that works behind StackMix, it's called Canvasit, and there's not a single line of documentation for it yet. It just started out as an experiment, and then I tried it with Routify templates, and then Routify 3 came into the picture. So maybe after Routify 3, I'll start working on the documentation for it.
Yeah, it's the ever long problem of documentation, right? Never gets done, really.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's the biggest problem for Routify. It's always been half a year behind on the documentation compared to the features that it holds.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone on that.
No.
With that problem in the open source community. So there's another project that I find the name to be quite funny. It's called Spank, I think.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, you use it to spank out your server-side rendered pages from your SPA, and that's why it's called SPA.
Yeah.
So what's that? It's also
There's a little ecosystem of utilities around Routify that they aren't really specific to Routify. That you could use them with React or Vue or whatever have you. They're very universal. They handle SSR and pre-rendering static site generation and stuff like that. And that's where Spank came into the picture. That was a wordplay on SPA, and I can't even remember if there was anything on the NK or if that was just because it sounded a bit funny.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny name.
and then there's Tosser.
Oh, right.
Yeah, which is just short for 2 SSR.
But it's funny because English, right?
Yeah, and then and then Spasser. That was SPA and SSR. So
it's got interesting naming conventions for sure.
Yeah, and then the last one I think was Configent. which builds configurations for whatever project you're working on. Say, for instance, for Routify, there's a lot of configuration going into that when you set up a project. And sometimes if you use that within a certain framework, the framework might decide how that should be set up. So Configent, when you add that to something like Routify in the code base itself, it checks the dependencies of whatever app it's installed into, and it says, oh, there's this or that framework here. That means we need this configuration. So it's very context aware. And then on top of that, it also reads your package JSON for a configuration by whatever you call your project. So when you add Configent to Routify and then install Routify in the project, it looks for a Routify entry in package JSON or a Routify config file in the root.
Cool. So I think a common misconception about Routify is that it's a framework, right? And it probably stems from I remember, was it early last year? I think the base template was almost like a full-fledged framework in a sense, but Routify in and of itself is just a router, right? So you can use that without any of the other stuff if you wanted to. But a lot of people often compare it straight to something more full stack.
Yeah.
Right? And that's I know that's been it's been kind of hard to describe the difference sometimes.
The difference, I'd say, is a framework has all the features built into it, SSR, static page generation, and so on. Whereas with Routify, I tried to avoid tight coupling with any specific feature like that. So instead, we created some utilities that you can add and remove as you please. I remember when Meteor came out, I don't know if that's something you're familiar with, it had everything baked into it, and it was very popular at first. And then later on, an alternative came out called Meteor. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
That kind of tried to do all the things that Meteor did, but without a framework. It was somewhere in between. Instead of building or having a bunch of utilities, it was just written into the template. With Routify, I wanted to do like they did with Meteor, not Meteor, but Meteor, and have all the functionality in the template, but written or driven by utilities instead of having to actually maintain the code yourself in the template.
Yeah, sorry, it just dawned on me we're talking about Meteor, not Meteor, as in like the
Can you spell?
node alternative.
I'm not idea what you're talking
it's
about.
like fleshier. Meteor, like meat.
Meteor.
MEA.
Okay.
Yeah.
IER. Okay. I think spelling would be better than like getting people to understand their pronunciation differences.
Good point.
Yeah. It's one of those things when you choose a name, call it something like Spank instead. It's easier.
Or Tosser.
Tosser.
All right. So what's next for Routify and the Routify community? Do you have any plans? I know we talked a bit about you guys doing a video on the Svelte Society channel, right? Maybe that could be something fun to do.
Oh, you mean a new video?
Yeah.
We will get around to that probably. Maybe we could maybe do a teaser type thing for Routify 3 or something, because there's quite a bit of new things with Routify 3 that we'd love to show off. And I think there's even Routify 2 features that never got announced. So
Yes, there are Ghost.
that might be on me, but
Yeah, Ghost has a little list of features for a blog post. Anyway, no rush there.
Yeah, we can even do a live stream or something like that. Make it easy.
Yeah, that could be fun.
But I think we need to not be perfectionist about like announcing the perfect launch or something like that.
Yeah, it's always like what's the saying? Is it perfect is the enemy of
good?
No,
good. No, I don't know. Yeah, perfect is the enemy of good, or
yeah, that one saying.
That one saying that everyone knows exactly.
Yeah.
Or continuous improvement over delayed perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of actually, exposing things, bringing things to light that are otherwise hidden. I've noticed, Ghost, that you are launching a web dev business. Is that right?
Yeah. I've
Do you want to tell
slowly
us more
working
about
on
it?
it. So I've been doing freelance web development, like properly for like the past year, as I mentioned. And I've got too much work and I can't take it all on. And I wanted to like
Nice.
hire some other people to help me out with that. And so I've been working on Oxover and definitely need to learn a bit from that continuous improvement, not in type thing, because it's slowly getting there and trying to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Launch early and test on the public, I reckon, was a good
We've been
approach.
testing privately, but I definitely need to get something out there.
Yeah. Just get it out there.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about with regards to Routify or Svelte or anything in general?
Yeah, how do you feel about Svelte in general?
I love Svelte. I used to get a bit of anxiety about Svelte. I'll have to admit that, because when it was first announced, I didn't know if this was going to be a complete rival for Routify or if it was something that could coexist. And I have had a lot of people asking me, would this be the end of Routify? But after seeing SvelteKit and the way it's made, I think we're doing the same thing differently and going for different demographics. Like there's some overlap, but there's also a good bit of differentiation. So I'm happy that time has passed or behind me now, that I've actually seen what SvelteKit has become.
Yeah, I think a lot of...
That's a big thumbs up to the SvelteKit team as well. I do love where it's going.
Yeah, I think when we launched SvelteKit, actually, there was a lot of kind of anxiety from people who had their own frameworks or libraries or whatever that covered some of the stuff that SvelteKit covers. And it is entirely misplaced, I think, because I can understand why it's concerning, but really the goal was we took what made, what the best bits from all the other frameworks and tried to build a kind of approach for all of it. A lot of those maintainers actually have joined us on the core team because they decided that maybe contributing to the SvelteKit was the right approach for them. Some carried on, Elder.js, for example. It covers a kind of, like you said, a different demographic. It's great to have competition, right? It's great to have people to share ideas with and stuff. So, yeah,
and it's all open source as well. So,
absolutely, 100%.
Any last few questions before we move on to unpopular opinions?
No, I can't think of any.
All right.
Unfortunately.
Okay, Antony, let's hear it.
Oh, it's always me. It's always me first. I can't remember. I've got so many unpopular opinions. I can't remember what mine is. What was it? Oh, where's my Notion gone?
Does Antony not have an unpopular opinion?
I do. I wrote it down.
Oh,
I wrote
said
it down.
Saas pricing sucks.
That's right. That's the one. That's Saas pricing sucks.
What does that mean?
So yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, right? So we're using a lot of Saas because it makes sense before you try and build your own or customize it. You want to use something off the shelf, and
for those who don't know, Saas is software as a service, and it's those subscription like Notion. You pay like $15 a month or something, and then if you run a business, you essentially all these little bills just start piling up, and then you end up with a giant bill that you don't know where it came from.
Yeah, I mean, so I think my problem isn't the bills build up, because obviously the Saas I use, the pricing is quite clear. The problem for me is, I guess, that Saas pricing as a whole seems to be very much like a 3 or 4 tier system. The lower tier, the basic plan, the developer plan, the startup plan, whatever, are usually kind of free, and often you get a fairly generous amount of stuff there. Mapbox is a good example of that. I mean, we survived on Mapbox on the basic plan, basically for free. They give you 50,000 map loads, and the reason I say so.
Is that kind of like a Google Maps kind of thing?
Yeah. So Mapbox is basically like Google Maps. I prefer it because it's a little bit cleaner, the code. So integrating it into an app, it bleeds a little less. Like Google Maps has a weird thing, for example, just to go on a bit of a tangent here. Google Maps, you embed it in your application, it starts to write to the browser history, to the HTML5 history. I don't know why it does it, and it really messed up Sapper's routing quite a lot at one point. So I really went off it. But yeah, so Mapbox, 50,000 map loads is super generous for most people that they could survive for free, no problem. The problem for me is that their next tier up makes, I think it's every 1,000 map loads up to 100,000 map loads is $5. So that's a massive jump. Like, that's a huge jump in pricing. And, you know, I don't necessarily need map loads. I need, for example, like tile loads. You can't separate that out. It doesn't give you that option. And I found that a lot of Saas doesn't. If you use Sanity, I think Sanity is fantastic. But once you want to go beyond the 3 free users, which again is super generous, it costs a fortune. So I don't necessarily, I need like 1 user maybe. I don't want to have like a plan with 10 users. I just want 1 more user. I want to then have maybe more, I don't know, more content, or I want to have more API calls or something. It just doesn't let you separate it out. And I think that more Saas could benefit from having a pay-as-you-go system, which granted Mapbox do actually have a pay-as-you-go system, but it's only certain things you can do. A pay-as-you-go system, or just maybe more tiers, right? Give me the 4 or 5 basic tiers, and then let me drill down and pick, you know, a bit of this and a bit of that. It would just mean that I could stay with the product. You know, maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe it's because the pricing works and that they can handle the volume that you're taking, and you know, it's a loss. That the basic plan is a loss leader because it's, you know, getting users through the door and getting people using it. But it just seems like maybe there's a better way to do Saas pricing. I guess that's why it doesn't suck. It's just, it sucks, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Saas pricing seems hard.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'll offer this. There's a pretty common jump in pricing whenever it comes to enterprise features, including single sign-on. The thing is, single sign-on is such a common basic security feature that a lot of people think actually it should be part of the basic offering. So there's a site that you can go to called sso.tax that actually is like a SSO wall of shame. It shows you how much markup they charge you just for adding SSO. So, for example, Airtable charges you 500% markup just to add single sign-on. And so, it's a pretty interesting metric by which you can criticize Saas pricing, but then also people seem to pay it. So,
yeah,
so
I mean that's it's true. It's, you know, it's not wrong at all. I mean, that's you know, there's definitely a reason behind it. It's just, you know, I had to move loggers because Semitex, I'm going to call them out on it. Semitex, right, is a decent logging platform. It's easy to get upset with. It does JSON, it does good searching. But the moment I go and I'm using up their 500 megs of logs or whatever a day, the moment I want to go over, it's 180 or something a month, like from 0. That's a big jump.
That's a big jump, yeah.
For another half gig, can't I just get 2 basic plans? You know, 2 free plans.
Yeah. I guess it's I guess it works.
It must work. It must work. But it sucks.
Okay. I don't know if Jacob or Ghost have any unpopular opinions to share. I'll go first while you think of something. So my unpopular opinion is that we will want Svelte to stop growing at some point.
Say again?
And we will want Svelte to stop growing at some point. I don't know when, but right now, and this idea came about because I was listening to Chris Toomey on the Bike Shed podcast. Chris is a converted Svelte user and pretty happy with it. And he pointed out that the reason, so Svelte recently became the most loved framework on Stack Overflow, right? Beating out React, Django, Rails, all these other frameworks that are popular. But it's most loved because it's a very small group of people who use it. And the more people who use it, the less love it's going to get, right? And that's just how things are. People who are early adopters are more vocal about their love for things. And so right now, Svelte is round about 3% of people surveyed, 3% of developers use it. And then Vue.js, 20% of people use it. React.js, 40% of people use it. So React is roughly twice as big as Vue. Vue is roughly, I don't know, 8 times as big as, 7 times as big as Svelte. And so the question is, you know, at some point, do we stop? I think there's a certain small is beautiful element of Svelte. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the community aspect of Svelte seems like it's a very small and nice community, and I think that's definitely a pro in comparison to many of the other frameworks. Like, for example, if you wanted to go to like React meetups, where would you go? Like, you can go to all sorts of places to find one, but like with Svelte, there's just one Discord where you go there, and then from there you find other places to go, and you branch out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to grow that with the Svelte Society thing, right? Like, we have maybe 15, I don't know how many are active Svelte Societies around the world. And as the world reopens, hopefully they'll start having their own meetups and their own languages and all that. So we'll see. It's early days, but I'm already thinking ahead to like, when does the essence of what Svelte is, like what we enjoy about Svelte today, when does that go away because Svelte is too big now?
It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah,
it has to stop growing to grow.
I think that a few maintainers probably think it's already too big. To be honest, they quite enjoyed it when it was small, and they got very few feature requests through. But no, I mean, I totally agree. I can understand that when something becomes too big and too popular, then it reaches that critical mass. But as for keeping it small, it really hasn't grown. As in, like, the people who maintain and contribute the most, the amount of external contributors has grown, but the core team is still very small, and decisions generally are ratified by the original kind of miniature core team, which is definitely a good thing. It keeps the quality high. I know that a lot of the downfalls we see in other libraries frameworks are that the API just stops making sense, and I think we've done well so far to ensure that it continues to make sense. So as long as you've still got that kind of those gates, I guess, that if something has to go through the gates of quality, then there's no reason we can't keep going, at least for the meantime, and let it grow.
All right. I don't have an unpopular opinion this week.
Yes, you do. You're just being quiet about it.
Yeah. I do have a lot of unpopular opinions, but
same here.
Not any that I want to talk about. No, I'm just joking. All right. Jake, Willow, do you guys have any unpopular opinions that you want to?
I only have unpopular opinions. I tend to keep them for myself.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe one unpopular opinion is if you file a bug report, and that's not necessarily Svelte, that could be anywhere, and you get told, yeah, but why would you do something that looks like an edge case? That's not what it's built for. Even if how you got there is very fundamental. It could be something like having 5 variables and adding them together and then subtracting them. It's not something you do just for the fun of it, but it should still work. And sometimes you get told, well, that's not 2 lines of code, so it shouldn't work. And I'm like, well, whether it's 2, 3, 4, or 5, it should work all the same. It should work as expected. That's more of a pet peeve.
Yeah, sounds a bit like the "you're holding it wrong" that Apple said on the iPhone, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right, Willow, do you have one, or should we move on to picks?
I don't.
No. All right, picks it is. I'll go first. So, I'm around my hood, or where I live, I guess I should say. I'm known as a bit of a jeans person, so I always wear jeans. But this summer, I've decided to try out linen clothing, and in the heat wave that's been going on this summer, it's been 10 out of 10 fantastic. So I can recommend. I've been buying from a brand called Muji. I think they're international. It should be all over. I can recommend their linen pants or linen shirts if anyone's looking for any.
Well, I'm glad someone got a summer here because we didn't.
Yeah, has it been raining or
It's rained torrentially. We've had some days of sun. There's been a spot here and there, but mostly rain.
Yeah. All right.
That's like the Irish saying, they love the summer because then the rain gets warmer.
It's about right, I think, yeah.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll do a quick pick. So
Yep.
my pick is Supabase, mainly because I was super impressed by their July updates, and it's pretty crazy. Like they released phone authentication, storage dashboard. They launched a hackathon, a bunch of Postgres support, Flutter, all in 1 month. And like I just looked at this and I was like, what did I do in July?
Yeah. They seem to be machines for sure.
So they're definitely pushing themselves very hard. I mean, my relationship to this problem is that I used to work at Amplify, and where it's essentially it's basically AWS's version of Firebase, right? And Firebase itself is a well-funded team that is working on this problem. This team of 19 people is outshipping all of them. And I think there's something special there about being a startup versus a big, behemoth where you don't particularly feel any urgency. But also I think it's pretty cool to watch just something develop when a startup has momentum. So, yeah.
I think it's. I saw some thread on Hacker News about like a Spotify client that was native. It was like in the top 5, top 1 maybe yesterday, and I saw some comment in there about like, wow, this one person or 2 people are like they're making an actual native application for Spotify, while Spotify is just using like Electron, and it's super clunky and has all of the problems that Electron apps has. It's interesting, like how size can be such an impairment at times. And I'm sure there are probably like 100 different things that the smaller team doesn't have to think about, right? That the big one has to keep in mind.
Exactly. Yeah. So they have the advantage of not worrying about legacy.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So my pick is, the background is I'm trying to do some hiring, get some job specs out right now. And the process is obviously, if you don't do it with a tool, it can get really messy and hard to keep track of who's where and what people are like and that kind of thing. I've used a few similar tools before, and I have to say they're kind of much of a muchness. They all kind of do the same fundamental thing. But I'm really enjoying GoHire.io because, one, their SaaS pricing doesn't really suck that much. But also because it's there's nothing like blow away game changer feature, but it does everything I want it to. It's a good price and it's very reasonable, works in a predictable way, and the UI is decent. Essentially, you write a job spec, you say publish, it publishes it to all the usual job sites, all the ones, even ones we'd have to pay per job spec. It's all included in the SaaS price it appears, which is quite nice. And then it manages applicants. When people apply, it collects the relevant information. It asks to upload their CV. So you always get a CV through each time. You have to kind of worry about it. Offers them a place to put a covering letter. It then gives you also a job site, which is quite nice. So you have your own custom domain, jobs.whatevercompany.com, and people can apply directly to the site. I've noticed a few applications coming through the GoHire site itself, in fact, which is quite cool. So there's one extra kind of route to market, I suppose. So I'm generally impressed with it. It seems to do everything I want to do. Give people star ratings, add tags to people, that kind of stuff. And you can do the whole pipeline there, move them through like a Kanban style board of hired, rejected, this interview, that interview. You can even send them questions through the tool itself. So yeah, GoHire.io is ticking a lot of boxes for me right now.
Nice. That's so funny. We so one of the people at Buddybase made actually like a job application template the other week. Should have used that. It doesn't really like connect to all of these other, I don't know, whatever job sites connect to though. So
yeah, I mean the other people in my company were doing it manually by each site, and it's just collating the CVs that come in, various different sites, links, emails. Oscar, my CEO, can't actually send me links to our Angel profile because though it says I'm in the company, I can't access it. It's all very awkward. So having it in one place is really good. Really impressed with it.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Do you guys have any picks, Jake, Willow?
Not specifically, but I recently started using ClickUp at work. I'm just ClickUp.com. I'm new to it, but my initial impression is that it's got a lot of potential, and this could be my new favorite place of just managing everything for any project. But yeah,
have you tried
Give
Notion?
me a week or two, and I might know a bit more. Sorry, say again.
Have you tried Notion? Have you compared it with Notion?
Notion, but whereas I think Notion is more like one feature almost. I love Notion, by the way. I think ClickUp involves a lot more. It covers a lot more ground. For writing a draft, I prefer Notion. Anytime I need to write something quickly and share it with people, I prefer Notion. But for managing sprints and tasks and all those different things, ClickUp ties a million different services together, so you don't have people scattered around GitHub and Jira and Notion and all these other services. It's something I would consider using. For now, I've only tried it at work, but first impression is good.
Yeah, I first heard about it on the Code Story podcast. So if you are interested in the founding story from the founder himself, you want to
that would
check
be interesting,
that out.
actually.
Yeah, and it threw me off balance completely because my entire world is Notion, and I was like, "What is this weird ClickUp name? Like, it sounds like a SEO site or something." And it's actually a productivity tool. So it's come from nowhere, and it's apparently very popular.
Should we try that for Svelte Radio templates?
Nah, I like Notion.
Okay.
There's another paradox with productivity tools. The amount of productivity I've lost trying out different productivity tools.
Yeah, the struggle is real.
Always chasing the next one. This time I didn't pick it though.
Actually, I was told by a very large VC this morning that it really impresses them when people submit their pitch decks in Notion, which is kind of a curveball to me. What, really? Rather than a PowerPoint or a PDF.
It's the new WordPress. Hiring pages actually even look better in Notion. Like there's no point making a custom hiring page or using Lever. Just use Notion.
All right, last pick. What's on your mind, Willow?
I have a lot of picks, but I think
you have to pick one.
Yeah.
No. Give them all.
No, we'd be here for a while. I was just looking through my stars on GitHub, and like everything here is pretty cool. So, so I've been using for quite a while now. I've been using this website called grid.layoutit.com. It's made by Lenio Labs, which is I don't really know. I think it's owned by some of the Veet guys. I think Patak and someone else. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. It's a way to visually create CSS grid. And the only time I ever really use CSS grid is when creating complex navigation that needs to shift around frequently. And being able to do it visually is just awesome because grid can sometimes be a bit much. So that's my pick.
That's a nice pick. I think I've seen this around, but I've never really used it.
I'll admit I'm one of those people who always sit with a cheat sheet next to me whenever I'm working with grids.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot before, and I sometimes have to go back and double check as well. There's so many options.
Exactly, it's like CSS within CSS.
Yeah, it's the. I'm sure you guys have seen the CSS tricks article with the complete guide to grid or whatever it's called. That's the one I always end up at.
I use CSS Grid Critters from I forget Dave Geddes, and I just memorized it after playing that game. So plug for it. I think it's expensive, but it's a good game if you want to learn CSS and memorize the thing.
We'll add it as well. Yeah. All right. So that's us this time. this episode. Where can guys or gals or anyone really find out more about you and Routify? Anyone want to offer up some links?
You can go to routify.dev, and my GitHub is ghostdev with 2 V's. It's obviously one of the best usernames ever. And Jake's is Jacob Rosenberg, and don't even ask me how to spell that.
No.
Jake, how do you spell your
Just, I'm sure you can find me on GitHub if you find the Routify project.
Yeah, you can. I think if you go to routify.dev, you can just click on his face.
If this airs in 2 weeks, we'll have a little sticker on the front page by then with a link to a preview to Routify 3. I think we can guarantee that.
Yeah, definitely.
Just give us a little heads up before you release it.
Ooh, I just went on Ghost's homepage and it just discovered that you have a Discord, a personal Discord. That's interesting.
I have a Discord for developers who just talk and get help with their code.
Joining.
Nice. All right. I guess that's it. Any last few words from anyone? No,
Not from me.
All right.
This is it for now.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for coming on. And yeah, bye everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.